Well, welcome everyone. It is our very first podcast episode of Philippa Squared, Parenting by Design. And Pippa and I are super, super excited about getting to share our journeys with you, about spending this time with you. So we have been planning, it's been a very long gestation. It's been around I think it's actually been closer to 10 or 11 months, hasn't it, Pippa, that we've been planning this podcast for you. And we've thought long and hard about what we want to share and the kind of guests we want to have on and um, the idea behind it. Parenting by design is really about, those unconscious parenting scripts or those unconscious scripts that we have that dictate our life. How do we pull those apart during pregnancy, birth, parenting? How do they impact us? So this is really an exploration of the emotional and spiritual side of parenting, pregnancy, and birth. And so we really wanted to share our combined, we have about 40 years between us in terms of experience with all of that stuff. So 20 years each, which is not nothing, is it, Pippa? It's 20 years, you learn a lot of things, don't you? So we're really keen and excited to share this space with you. We're going to tell you our stories first. We thought maybe you'd be interested in learning about who we are, what we do, and how we got to this space of sharing our, I'm going to call it wisdom because I feel very wise in some ways. I feel like I'm constantly learning in others, but I feel like we have some wisdom and some expertise to share. So, Pippa, let's start with you, Pippa Cox. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, hey Philippa. Yeah, what an interesting journey it is. I mean, the midwifery space, I've been a midwife for 20 years. And interestingly enough, when I first started midwifery, it was only going to be a 10-year plan, but I loved it so much. It ended up being 20 years. And the only reason why I left was because this beautiful hospital that I was working at beforehand, the tentacles of the medical system were starting to come and overtake our care. So that started to really exacerbate me. And I knew there was such a better way to actually help women on a broader scale. And we practice so holistically in this beautiful bubble that I called in our practice. And we were only scratching the surface just with our one-to-one care. And I wanted to just bring all the knowledge that I'd gained over the last 20 years and spread it into a much broader realm. Because I started, in fact, I first to serve. Yeah, hey, Philippa. It is so good to be working with you. You've got 20 years as a doula. I've got 20 years as a midwife. I mean, that is just an incredible amount of experience, incredible amount of wisdom that we've both have. It's great. So I just want to share a little bit about myself. So I was a midwife for 20 years, and one of the things that really inspired me to become a midwife was when I was traveling through Africa back in the 90s. And I saw all this trouble in Africa and all these people that needed a lot of help. And it really inspired me to go back to Australia and study nursing and then midwifery. And it was only going to be a 10-year career. Exactly. It was only going to be 10 years because I just thought, oh, yeah, that'll be fine. I'll get my degree. I'll go back to Africa. I'll help people. But you want to know something? When I became a midwife, I absolutely loved it.
Mhm.
Every single person is different. Every single birth was different. Every single pregnancy was different. Every single motherhood was different. So that really inspired me to keep on learning and to keep on just becoming a midwife. It was awesome. So the other great thing about midwifery is that it enabled me to travel all through the world. So my midwifery career is not just in Australia, but it's worldwide. I spent 3 years in the most amazing hospital in Abu Dhabi in Arabia, where there's 8,000 to 12,000 births a year. I mean, wow, that's exceptional. We just had so much going on in that hospital. It was awesome. There wasn't anything in that hospital that I didn't come across.
Mm.
And the really cool thing about it, because it was such a busy hospital, the doctors didn't care unless it was an emergency or a very high risk pregnancy. So we had midwives helping women birth their twins. We had midwives birth breechers. I mean, that's things that's unheard of in Australia,
Mm.
where a twin birth in Australia is deemed as really high risk and people can actually sell tickets at the door. Because I've heard
Mm.
stories of there's so many people in the room while they're birthing.
Mm.
And the one takeaway from a twin birth is that it's just two normal births, one after the other. You know, even later in life, when I was working for Médecins Sans Frontières, I did 3 missions with Médecins Sans Frontières. With those people that aren't familiar with it, it's also Doctors Without Borders. And I remember this one time, a woman came in and she had a big bump in her tummy and she was holding her baby. And I'm going, oh, that's strange. I wonder what this story is. So she'd birthed her first at home the night before, and then a second twin wouldn't come. And so they came to hospital. They spent hours actually getting the money together to buy the petrol for the transport to come to hospital. It is a bit of a
Mm.
process. And she still had a second baby inside, you know, a day later. So
Mm.
basically, all we did is that we moved the baby because it was transverse. That means that it wasn't head down, the head was at the side, and moved it around. Her waters hadn't broken, thank goodness. So we broke her waters, and then the baby came out easy. We actually got her dancing. We got her dancing in the unit because we needed the contractions to start up again, and the contractions started up again, and she had a baby. So you've got twin baby boys who were born on 2 separate days,
Wow.
both in perfect condition. And I just have a little chuckle to myself and also a lot of eye rolling when it's such a high risk birth in Australia.
Mm.
It just,
Tell
yeah,
us,
what's up?
Pippa, tell us about your experience with different cultures and birthing and how it's treated by different cultures, the emotional and spiritual side of that.
Oh, that's fascinating. And it was one of my incredible interests when I was midwifing all around the world. My favorite would have to be Africa, where birthing is seen in the community as a spiritual thing,
Mm.
where there's someone in labor, they go to a special house, or if they don't have a special house or a special turkle, which is like a grass hut, they birth in their own turkle. But you've got women dancing around, you've got music playing. It is just extraordinary. And when the baby is finally born, there's a big celebration. There's noise and there's celebration all throughout the village. It's just extraordinary. And then you have the Arabic culture, where in Arabic culture they birth so well because they don't have the fear. In my
Mm.
experience, anyway, they didn't have the fear that we have in Western societies. Because in Abu Dhabi, in Arabic culture, it's a job to have babies. And so they go into it like a job. I come in, I breathe, I birth, I go. But afterwards, they are princesses, absolute princesses. They have the most beautiful glow on their face. They're all made up. They hold their baby in their arms like it's a great big cake of gold. And they have a stream of visitors coming in for days, for days. Even with the royals, I had the privilege of being present when a lot of the royals were birthing. And that is a performance and a half, because it's part of her, not only her duty to have babies, but it is
Mm.
highly revered, and it is like a Hollywood performance. And they just handle themselves so beautifully, with grace, with ease. It is just beautiful to witness. And the other remarkable people that I came across were women from northern Pakistan in Peshawar. That was fascinating. You had two types of women. You had women who just got on with it, but they didn't move around. They just stayed still like a statue. They lay down and they just stayed still. They did not move. They did not do a thing. They just moved through it. I normally, as a midwife, and I know you know this as a doula as well, you know exactly what stage someone is at by the way that they're behaving,
Mm.
right? You had no idea what stage these women were at until they developed this little bead of sweat on the top of their mouth. And that's when you thought, okay, she's going to push really soon, because that was the time for transition.
Mm.
That was the sign.
Yeah.
It was incredible, absolutely incredible. And the women in Yemen who were so histrionic, they were so emotional when their babies were born. It was like being in a rock concert. Lots of noise, lots of celebration, and same with Egypt as well. The Egyptians, oh, they sung the Arabic song, the la 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 la. It was deafening, absolutely deafening. So a lot of different cultures have so many different ways that they birth. And if you're looking at the Africans and the Arabic women, they moved and they were at one with their body and at one with the baby.
Mm.
So beautiful, beautiful things to witness, particularly firsthand. It was incredible. So a lot of the learnings and a lot of um, the ways that I brought back to Australia to help them in Australia. And we have the added thing in Australia where we've got the access to really good diet and we've
Mm.
got the knowledge. All we have to do is access it to decrease complications. All we have to do is eliminate fear, as you know, Philippa, to actually help the world just and the woman just let go and birth. So that's basically why I decided to leave midwifery practice. The medicalization of childbirth is really taking grasp in this country, and there's no solid evidence for it. And what I've seen in developing countries is a wide range of normal that people in Australia, midwives and doctors in Australia, haven't been exposed to. We're exposed to a very narrow range and we instill fear in women. And that fear not only impacts her pregnancy, it also impacts her birth, impacts her entry into motherhood as well, increases trauma, increases postnatal depression. So these are the things that I really want to help and I really want to target
Mm.
in what I'm doing now. And we've got this most beautiful platform is a podcast to actually help do that. Yeah. What about you, Philippa? How come you're in this space?
Well, my journey started 21 years ago in 4 days' time when I gave birth to my first baby. She was, um, she was, and her entrance was not what I expected. And I had gone into my first birth thinking that, well, my mum had 4 babies without any issues, so I would, you know, I didn't have any reason to believe that I wouldn't. I'd had a lot of dreams during my pregnancy for a period of time about um, bringing home this 6-month-old baby and not ever having bathed, fed, clothed, or done anything for it. Like I did, and bringing it home and going, I don't know what I'm doing with this thing, right? Like, so I had a lot of learning to do, and those dreams went away when I did some learning about what it was that this baby was going to ask of me. So it was a real journey, but I was more, I'm a bit different to a lot of mums out there. I actually did a lot of learning around caring for the baby, but didn't actually spend a lot of time looking at the system that I was birthing in. And so the system kind of caught me by surprise. I was with a private obstetrician in a private hospital, and I got a birth that I wasn't planning on. And so my journey from there became one of more learning. I then delved into what the maternity system in Australia is like and how to navigate that to actually get the kind of birth that I wanted. So when I was pregnant with my second baby, so I'd had a cesarean section for my first because it was almost Easter, so I'd had the induction and the cascade of intervention and all the things. My second baby, I wanted to have a vaginal birth for, and there was only 19 months between my first and second babies, and I made the decision well, we'd moved as well by then. We'd done this big move, 1,400 kilometers away, and we had an incredible experience there with the move and really tapping into some I had to learn how to create community because I didn't have my family. So we did this move. I got pregnant again. We'd bought a house. I'd become a doula because I figured that I could help other women understand what I didn't know about birth and help them really sink into what it was that they wanted. So I became a doula, and I had my second baby in the public system, and I did have a vaginal birth after cesarean, a VBAC, but I experienced obstetric violence again, the same as I did in my first birth, but of a different kind. And it was a good experience in a lot of ways. It certainly allowed me to become more confident in my body, but it wasn't the birth I knew it should have been. And my baby was taken away, rather than being given straight to me, and not for any valid reason, but just because. And anyway, during this whole time, I was also in the process of putting together a birthing centre for Townsville. So we were working really hard. I was president of Friends of the Birth Centre from the inception, which was in one of my friends' kitchens. And right through to about 18 months after that birthing centre was built, I was the president. And so I was doing lots of work around advocating for women and families to have better maternity care, more holistic maternity care. I was not allowed to birth there because they wouldn't accept VBACs. That's okay. I went on to have my third baby, who, because there was no midwifery care outside of the hospital in Townsville or within 4 or 5 hours drive of Townsville at the time, I free birthed her. It was the most incredibly beautiful experience of my life. And, they say that you learn what you need to learn through each birth to parent that child. Well, that birth taught me intuition and to follow my intuition, and that's exactly what I've needed to do to parent her. She's now 17 years old. So I had this beautiful free birth, and then I was lucky enough with my fourth baby. So I had 4 little girls in 6.5 years. And my fourth baby was born at home with a travelling male midwife from Scotland who drank tea and ate biscuits in my kitchen while I did my thing. And my intuition told me that I needed to have somebody there this time. And I didn't need him for the birth itself, but for after the birth, I did. and I didn't have any big bleeds or anything, but I just had a little bit of trouble really clamping down afterwards, and so I needed a bit of help with that. So some fluids and so on, which was amazing to be able to do at home and not have to leave my house to do. So that's been my journey. I've spent a lot of time working with families around birth trauma. I've spent a lot of time working with families around coaching for pregnancy, birth. I'm a childbirth educator. I'm a TRTP practitioner. So I work in that space of helping people to overcome their stress, distress, and trauma. I've spent a lot of time helping women learn how to create community and overcome the isolation that goes along with parenting for a lot of people. And I'm really passionate about birth and parenting being a fulfilling journey as opposed to one filled with overwhelm and anxiety. And a lot of women are just missing that person they can go to. My nieces just say, because they're, you know, some of my nieces are birthing now, and they say to their friends, wait, I'll just call Auntie Pip. We'll see what Auntie Pip says. And I love that. I love to be able to share that knowledge. I'm a grandmother now, and my beautiful daughter birthed her baby at home a few months ago, and it was an incredible journey for me as well as for her, to watch her do that and have a really powerful experience. So yeah, that's where it comes in for me. It's been a long journey over those 20 years, but I'm super excited to be able to share what I know and to continue to learn along with our guests and with you. So
Yeah,
thanks.
sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing, Philippa.
Well, that's what we're doing, right? We're going to call you Pippa and we're going to call me Philippa, because then people know who we're talking about, right?
Yes, it's not just about the voice and the midwife. It's Pippa the midwife and Philippa the doula.
That's it.
And together we're Philippa Squared, right?
That's it. Fabulous. Well, look, that's it for us for our first podcast. We just wanted to do this little intro, let you know who we are and what we're all about, so that you can get to know us a little bit. Please jump onto our websites, though. All the links will be in the show notes. Jump on, have a look, see who we are, and then subscribe, stay in touch with us. We have lots coming for you, and it's going to be magic.
It's going to be beautiful, isn't it? I'm so excited. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next week.
Okay, everybody.